Hi, I'm Jagruti Duggal, and today we'll be talking about the topic if you're in your 30s and 40s and you have never been married. And I'm well excited to have our guest for today. For our first show, it's Deb from Fizzog Productions. Welcome, Deb.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And one thing I'd like to say is that Deb and I have known each other for many, many years.
A long time.
Yes, not too long. But we actually used to go to college together, and we're part of like performing arts as well. So I am excited because today we're actually talking about a subject which I think from an Asian point is like if you're in your 30s or your 40s and you've never been married, that people start asking questions. Now, I don't really want to talk much about myself as yet. How's it for yourself, being the age that you are? I mean, if you want to say how old you are.
I'm 47. I'm 47, that's fine. Got no issue with that at all.
And how's it been for you?
Do you know what? It's not something that I think I've really overly thought over the years. You know, I've had boyfriends, various partners, but it's never been on the cards. It's never been something that I thought that's what I want. When I was a kid, when you're little, you want the fairy tale wedding,
Yes, I know.
you want the Prince Charming, and then you meet a few frogs on the way, and then you think, maybe not. So, no, for me, it's not, I don't think I've had so much of an issue with it. But I think, you know, I think even my parents, they weren't like pushing for that either. My sister's not married either. A lot of my friends aren't married. And the ones that were married are all divorced. So that just says it all, really.
So as you just mentioned, like, you know, obviously those who are married or were married, they've got divorced. Does that ever like trigger in your head that, you know, there are so many people who are like getting divorced and everything, and do I really want to get married? Does that question ever pop up in your head?
I just think we look at the way people behave in relationships now, and then you look at like our parents' generations. Like my folks have just been, I think they've just had their 52nd wedding anniversary, and they've gone through a lot of ups and downs, like many couples of that time. And I think there's different values then than what there is now. I don't think we as generations probably work at it as well as what they would have done. I know that there'd have been times when I'd that's it, done, finished, over. And I think that's the difference. I think they did work on it better than what we have.
But I think the thinking of like being married, it's like I could talk about my parents as well. It's going to be 50 years for them. And all I know is that from the Asian, I can only talk from being an Asian and how it was for them, because my parents always like talk about when they got married, because they had a love marriage. And in those times, it was more about, in the end, he's your husband. It doesn't matter what happens, you have to just deal with it, just go with it. So I do agree with you in many stages where like, they had to work through it and everything. That's absolutely fine. But I think for myself, I'm in obviously my 40s. I'm not married. I'm Asian. And I get a lot of questions by the elderly who come into the salon and ask me questions like, oh, are you married? No, I'm not. Why aren't you married yet? Because I haven't found the right person at the moment. And then, okay, well, are you sure there's nothing wrong with you? What do you mean there's nothing wrong with you? Something meant to be wrong with me. But you should really get married because you're at that age now and it doesn't look good, because if you want to have kids. And I can understand, because I do think about that myself, because I do want to have a family. I do want to have my own kids. And just like you, yes, I've been in relationships, but then it's the experience that you've had in a relationship. I mean, I remember when I was in a long-term relationship, 13 and a half years, you know, you think, oh wow, you know, I'm going to get married and everything. But then when the individual suddenly like changes, and all he was doing was like listening to his parents, and he just changed, totally changed. And I thought, you know what, oh my God, I can't be dealing with this, because we were always arguing constantly. Then I remember after that, I just didn't want to be in a relationship at all. I was just focusing on my career. then I was in another relationship, 6.5 years. He was someone from the music industry. Ugh. And it was like, okay, fine. And he spoke about marriage. Yeah. And he wanted us to get married and everything. But the one thing about him was he was very controlling. Now, you know when parents tend to say, love is blind. And you think
big time.
And you think, what do you mean by love is blind? I just never understood what they meant by love is blind.
If you look back, I know I've done it. Look back at the catalogue of well, it sounds like there's a lot of them. There wasn't, but I was, from the age of 17, I was in a relationship for 3 years, and then went straight into another one for 8, then straight into another one for 8.
As well,
and I look back and I go, I could not imagine being with them now. So when you're talking about change, people do change, and I think it's whether you change together as a couple or whether you start going in different directions.
Exactly.
And I think you said as well, like being career minded. Same for me, really. It was like that. My emphasis was on doing what I was doing, working in theatre, doing what you've got to have somebody that's kind of quite understanding about what you do, because you don't do the 9 to 5 job. I'm not the best cook, so I'm not going to come home and cook your tea.
That's what I'm just I love cooking.
My other half now, he's the cook, so he does all of that. But I'm not the cook, and I'm not saying that, but there was I think there was always roles in society years and years back where parents, they had the children, the mom stayed. My mum she was a stay-at-home mom until we were of an age, and then she went out and did a part-time job, and my dad was the breadwinner. I don't know if that's the same with you guys, but it was definitely the way it was for us and a lot of my friends, where I think as we've got older, women have gone on and had their own careers, so women aren't always at home to do can't do everything. We need to be equal.
I think with my parents, they were working together, so we've got a family business, and so mum and dad were working together. But obviously, as with my mum, yes, once she had us as kids, she wanted to take on the mother role. But I mean, going back to like the relationships in general, sometimes I think the relationships, the experiences that you go through actually teaches you a lot as well. God. Because going back to like Love is Blind, I mean, with the one I was with for like 6.5 years, and you think, it's always been long-term relationships, but then it's when you're talking about the understanding of like the careers, because in our career, being in the theatre world, being within the media, it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's like you've got your rehearsals, you've got your shows, you've got your events and everything, so you're going out and you're meeting other people, and I suppose it's the insecurity from themselves, even though they say that we trust you, and trust is a very, very big issue. It's very, very big, and when you say that you trust when you understand, but then as you're in that relationship, where is the understanding? Then questions were always being fired, and then that's when I didn't realise that I was actually being controlled in my relationship until I saw a survey, and I thought, you're joking, let me just try it out and see what. But the questions that they asked, and when I was going through them, I was like, oh my God, that is so true.
Same for me, and I think every relationship, if you have had that level of their insecurities put onto you, and you do have control, you start to put your barriers up, so it's very, very difficult to when you've got somebody else that comes into your life, as much as you don't want to project the stuff that's happened with someone else,
and you don't want to compare or anything,
it's very, very difficult, because what you end up doing is there could be something very similar that's said that reminds you,
that's it,
and you go and so your barriers come up. So it's very hard, I think, sometimes. I know for me, I think it's very hard for whoever comes into my life to break that down a little bit. They would find that difficult, because I know that I put the walls up. I know I do.
I think with me, before actually going into a relationship, it was, will I be able to, is it going to be the same as the previous relationships? And you do put that guard up, but then it's like, as we say, not everyone is the same.
No, not
but sometimes, as you said, yes, that certain things that they say, or certain things that they do, you think, oh my God, that's what happened to me before. Should I just not say anything? Should I just just
brush it under the carpet,
and just, because you don't also want to compare them as well to your previous ones. And I think as we get older as well, you become a bit more wiser, and you get and I've been told that I'm now very fussy when it comes to, if ever you get into a relationship, you're going to be fussy. And I'm like, I'm not fussy. It's just that, I think, as I said, it's the experience and everything. It's like, I was introduced to guys for marriage. And before I actually went to meet these guys for marriage, I told my friends that, look, we had this code. And I'm going to tell you this. We actually had this code. So the code was, if it's really good, it's strawberry. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Leave salon. It's going fine. Ice cream was call me in about 10 minutes to get me out of here. And if it was going really bad, it was chocolate. And it was like, call me ASAP, get me out of this. And I remember when I used to go and meet the guys for marriage, you know, the introduction and everything. And I was the one who was always doing the talking. And now I don't know if it's because the field that I'm in, and coming from a performing arts background, you are quite confident and like chatty, you're very sociable and like you meet so many people. And I was like, why aren't they talking? Then I thought, you know what, let me ask. I was the one who was always asking them the questions.
Felt like you were interviewing them.
And I felt, exactly. But then I thought it was like, the guys should be asking me the questions. Now, I never used to tell them what the field that I was in media and thing, but somehow they would also do their research. Oh, you're Jagruti doing, this is what you do. And I was like, look, but, you know, we've met it for us, you know, not the back or the career.
My job
exactly.
Today. Yeah.
This is who I am. So then I have a lot of male friends, and they turned around and said, Jag, don't talk too much because guys do not like strong women. I was like, what do you mean they don't like strong
What do they
women?
want?
That's exactly. So then what happened was, so when I went to meet this other guy for marriage, I thought, right, okay, I'm not going to say nothing at all now. So I went there, hi, how are you, blah, blah, sat down. I thought, right, he's going to ask me questions now. Did not say anything. I thought, right, that's it, I'm just going to have to start asking the questions again. So I started asking, and then it was like, oh, what do you do as a hobby? What do you enjoy doing? Do you interested in sports or anything? You know, I was just like one-worded answers, and I was like, do you know what? I've not met anyone who's given me that wow factor.
And I think that's the thing. Why should you have to change to suit somebody else? If you're a talker and you want to chat, then what's wrong with that? Because the thing is, you know, exactly what you were saying there about, you know, these about being a strong woman, or we don't know how to be. I think it's like, I am who I am. My mum's a really strong woman. Your mum comes across as she's a really strong woman.
Yeah.
My mum takes no prisoners at all. She is who she is. She says it as it is, but she's not like brutal with it. But my dad just loves her for who she is, and it's like, why should you have to be the meek and female on one hand, and then have to be the strong woman on the other? Because we all have our vulnerabilities. I have those vulnerable times when I don't want to be Deb the performer. I don't want to be Deb that can stand up on stage in front of thousands of people. Sometimes I'm that person who just doesn't want to get from underneath the quilt. I just want somebody to just come give me a hug and just take the reins for a while. And I think that's that, you know, when we were growing up with the princess kind of, you want your knight in shining armour, and when that bubble bursts and you don't have that knight in shining armour, then it's a bit like, oh, okay then. So then that puts a lot of pressure on the guys to be able to have to be this, and they might not feel that way too. It's really interesting. I remember when I was working at the museum, and the lovely Dave Morris, our ex-college lecturer, and obviously Dave's, bless him, he's just had his 79th birthday, which is phenomenal. It doesn't look any different. And we were walking around, he was working with us throughout the summer, and he said to me, I said, I don't understand what it is between men and women now. And he said, because people don't know where their roles are anymore. It's changed so much. What I was saying earlier about, you had the man who was the breadwinner, the woman was the stay-at-home, and especially going back even further than, you know, our parents, our grandparents, that was what all communities did. So you would have had the mums at home who would have brought up the families, they would have done the cooking, they would have done the cleaning. It wasn't like women's rights here, it was just what was known, what was done. And as society has changed over the years, I'm not surprised that some men go, oh God, she's too strong, I don't know what to do here. And then women are going, well, he's not strong enough, come on, how strong have they got to be? You know, have they got to be like Superman? It's just, it's trying to fit. And I think, for me, I think that's where it boils down to. We need to live in this equality, you know, area where you can look at a man and you can look at a woman, and they've both got their vulnerabilities and they've both got their strengths, but you come together as an equal.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
It's about give and take as well, isn't it? Because in the end, okay, me as a person who is in the media, and this is another subject I want to talk about, is because another guy that I did meet for marriage.
How many have you met? How many have you been put?
Well, okay, so this one guy, I did meet up with him and we clicked so much. And it was so good. And I thought, wow. And
finally.
That was like, finally, yes, I've actually met someone. But then what happened? The sister actually got involved. So he was absolutely fine I explained that, you know, I'm in the media and everything, this is what I do. He goes, that's fine because that's you. And he accepted it and everything, and I thought, fantastic. And then we were obviously like texting one another, we were calling one another, and then it went a bit quiet. And I was like, and every time we tried to arrange to meet up, even though he wanted me, he was like, oh, you know, my sister was just saying that, oh, because you're in the media, you know, you meet a lot of the people in the media are like male, and you're surrounded by men and everything like that. And I was like, but that's the media world, you know, it's not, this is,
you could work in the local shop.
Exactly. And you and in the end it wasn't him, it was his sister, or what is mom going to say? But then it's, maybe your mom's got a different view, she might just turn around, I just want my son to be happy. Do you get what I mean? And sometimes, even though you may find someone who's probably compatible to you, or you feel that, yes, you know, I found the right one, families, and I don't know if this is with yourselves, but sometimes within the Asian community, it's about, as they say, you're not marrying the guy, you're actually marrying the family.
I don't think it's so much in our communities. I mean, there probably is, not so much for mine. I mean, my other half's Spanish, so, you know, when I told my mum and dad that, you know, I've got a new fella, 4 years down the line now, got a new fella and he's Spanish, it was a bit like, oh, that was it. And it wasn't like, well, you know, and of course my mum being my mum, because my other half, he's got a very, very strong accent. And when we first met, you know, you talking about dating and you were constantly questioning him, it was hilarious, because I remember the first time I laid eyes on him and I thought, oh yeah, this looks like this might be a nice night. And all he did was grin at me. So I'm talking to him thinking, oh, where's this going? Because I'm just interviewing you. And I didn't realise at that point that his English wasn't very good. So I was being fast talking. There's a black country girl. And it was like, he was just grinning like this. Anyway, we had our first date in Bridge North. And there's a tapas bar in Bridge North. Because straight away he goes, would you like something to eat? And I'm going, oh no, you don't eat on your first date, can't eat on your first date. And he's dropped something down me. But as soon as we got in there, he came into his own, because he was in his environment and his culture. So then he was telling me all about like the food that his mum cooks, and that was really lovely. But when my mum first met him, you'd have thought he was deaf, because she talked to him this way, and I was like, I can't understand, just but it's that kind of, again, it's that not understanding certain cultures. But you know, they get on and he plays her up and she's fine with it, but she can't talk to him on the phone because she can't understand it. But I don't know where my train of thought was going with this one, why I was saying I'd got a Spanish fella,
because of the families and
the families. Yeah, so when I met his family, that it was equally as entertaining, because his dad has spent his entire life trying to learn English, so it's brilliant because it's this like real broke, and he kind of shouts at you while he's talking. So it's like, hello Debo, because he calls me Debo, how are you? He's so lovely. Bless him, his mum, I can't have a conversation with her because she doesn't speak any English whatsoever, so we kind of gesture to each other. and I speak minimal Spanish still. It is my plan to learn better, but I've never been very good with languages. But it is hard, I think, when you're from other cultures as well, and trying to understand how different people, like we live in Britain, and I'm going out with a guy who is, you know, his whole culture and whole life is steeped in Spanishness, and they deal with things very, very differently to the way they're very family orientated. And he to me would go, he doesn't understand how being here, how all the guys all go out for a drink and all drink pints, and he doesn't get all that, doesn't understand that kind of thing for him, because when they were all growing up, all the families all go out together, they all do things together. So it's weird how we've all got different. I'm not saying that for every Spanish family out there, I'm just saying with mine. So, but we've never been like that. We don't do everything as a family, even growing up as a British family. We just never did. So I just think you're always going to come across obstacles. Yeah. It doesn't matter what side of the fence everyone's from. I don't think it really matters.
So obviously being with your partner now, and you've been together 4 years.
Nearly 4 years.
Nearly 4 years. Will there be any marriage, or do you feel that, actually, I don't want to get married, I'm just going to leave it as it is?
I can't imagine myself being Deborah Aura, because that's what I would be.
Yeah.
Deborah, because his last name's Aura.
Right.
No, it's never been something that we've talked about. Never been on the cards.
Parents ever questioned you about that?
No, not once. And I don't think his parents, his brother's married, his sister's not, and she's in her 40s.
Okay.
So again, there's that. Does it really matter? Do we need to? I think a lot of people also say, oh, it's just a piece of paper. It's just that.
Yeah.
And I think, well, possibly. Does it mean that you have a ring on your finger and you have a certificate to say I love you? Does that matter? How many people do we know who spend a lot of money on getting married and then...
Well, I don't know, in the age, I don't know.
There's a lot of money that gets
spent. There's a lot of money that gets spent on a wedding, over 10, 20 grand, even more than that. Yeah. And then next minute, you know, they've just totally finished. And I've had so many friends who have been in long-term relationships about 15, 20 years, then they decided to get married. The next minute, you know, after a year or so, they've decided to part. And it's like, well, why would you? And then it gets, I think for me, it kind of like gets me thinking that, do I really want to get married? I mean, as you said, as girls we think about a fairy wedding, you know, a fairy tale wedding and everything. I remember when I used to go to India, my uncle, he's got a bangle shop, and in the Asian community, if you like, for the females when you get married, it's called jura, and it's red bangles that you put on the females. And every time I used to go to his shop, he used to ask me, what bangles do you want? I always used to go for the jewellery. And I said, one day I'm going to get married and I'm going to wear these. And so Mum and Dad and my sisters always remind me that whenever it came to jewellery, whenever it came to bangles or anything like that, or when it came to outfits, it was always about, you're going to be getting married and this is how you want. And I even wrote down how I want my wedding and, you know, how it's going to be and what I'm going to do, and like I had everything all themed up and everything. And then I think I always wanted to get married. This is me, I always wanted to get married.
Do you still?
I think you get to a stage where you do, if I want to get married, I want to get married to have a family, because I think, I don't know, whether it's being, me being a traditional kind of like individual, where I just want to have a family, be married. I don't want to have like a family out. But then it gets to a stage where when I hear about like the divorce and the separation and everything, and then obviously thinking back at the experiences of like relationship and everything, is it really worth it?
But I suppose if we never took that risk, we would never know, would we? No. Life is about taking risks sometimes.
And that's it. And
you know, I'm at the moment going through with an ex-partner. I mean, luckily it's all amicable, but we had a house together and we've been split up 10 years and we're only just selling the house. So, you know, and having to have those conversations with somebody that you had a relationship with more than 10 years ago, and I look at it, and we're very, very different people. And I can't even remember us. We were together for 8 years, but I can't remember much of that relationship. And I think, but we're having to deal with some commitment that we were contracted into. I don't say house, it's not a marriage, but I think houses, kids, marriage, they're big commitments that couples do. And you don't go into them lightly. Do you know what I mean? And I'm lucky that we're both on the same page with this, because this would be traumatic. It would dredge up all that stuff that didn't work between us, and which you don't really want to have to relive some of that pain, do you? You just want to. So I know what you mean, but I also think, well, we didn't take a risk. Maybe this is why women that get married in their early 20s, because they haven't got any of that. Oh, well, what about if it doesn't work out? They don't question anything because their life experience hasn't been that long. Yeah. So they just go into it in a very romantic, lovely setting, and you either grow together. I mean, I've got friends, they've been together since they were 18, and their marriage is as strong as the day they got married. We all went to school together, they got 3 amazing kids, they're hilarious together. But they got married very, very young, and they were together from the age of 18, so they've grown together. They haven't grown apart, where I think when you've had different relationships and each one has moulded you in a certain way, or then you've changed the way that you look at things because of that relationship. If you hadn't had that relationship, would you have had the experiences that you know, positive or negatively?
And I think that's the other thing as well. It's like, I do get questioned. I get questioned quite a lot, actually. I don't know what.
People find you interesting. That's what it is.
So it's, would I ever get married? I do want to get married, but it's that individual. It's finding that partner, that real, that partner that you'll feel comfortable with. And then you have to think, well, even though you don't want to think about like your past relationships and experiences that you have, because you want to start fresh with the individual. But then it's like, at this age, do I want to? I'm very career minded, and the other thing is, sometimes a lot of them say, you're in the media, Jag, you're in the public eye, and not everyone wants they kind of stigmatise and this stereotype, like the individual, especially for an Asian female. I can only talk from an Asian female, that being in the media, you're in the public eye, they get called certain names and everything. Oh, you're probably like doing this, and like it's in a male dominating field that you're working in. And do you want to marry someone who's in the media? Because then is she going to be suitable in the family? Is she going to be suitable as a wife? Is she going to be suitable as a mother? But what they don't realise is, and this is the one thing I do actually want to say, is that don't put that individual, whatever their career is, it's their career. So I'm in the media, but I'm a very family oriented person. I look after my parents, I work, I literally do absolutely everything. But sometimes they say it's the career that kind of like puts the individual down. And I'm not saying that's for everyone, but that's for some.
Separate that.
And sometimes they don't actually separate. They'll always see you as, all right, for example, nowadays, I know a lot of females who are so into their career that they don't even think about marriage. And as we say, you never know, one day you're going to meet that Prince Charming and you'll get married and everything. If not now, probably later on in life. And then questions tend to arise, well, do you want to grow old on your own? Because, reality of life is the fact that your parents aren't always going to be there all the time. Your siblings are going to be married.
You don't have to settle for somebody. You want somebody that's right for you, and vice versa. Because I think there's a lot of people, and if they're honest with themselves, a lot of people that are in marriages that aren't right for them, and they're definitely not right for the kids, and they're definitely not right for, for everyone. But they live in there's this numbness, and I think if you don't want to have to settle. I can't imagine you settling for anyone. And when you were talking about your list, we all have that list. I think men should also have that list, because you may not want you may not get everything on that list, but I think if you've got a high percentage, say for instance with you, if you had a guy that was supportive and was equally maybe as career minded, and you supported him, and he was driven, and you could have a laugh with him. These are the qualities, the trustworthy. It goes both ways. It shouldn't matter what your career is. It shouldn't matter. I'm the same. I've had relationships with guys over the years. Some have kind of been okay with with what I do. Some not so much. Yeah. But having said that, this is who I am. This is what I do, and that's not going to change, because this is your job. You wouldn't say that to somebody who's, well, I'm a nurse. So, well, you're going to have to give that up, because just in case you might get a bit close to the patients.
Very true. Now, I mean, the interesting thing is, I actually wanted a male coming on board as well and giving his side.
That would have been interesting.
And do you know what? I don't know what it is with the guys, they like to talk, but then when it comes to being in front of a camera, it's like, I'm not going to do that. Okay, but I've had so many females who wanted to come on board, and they wanted to share their stories as well, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. But it'll be interesting to have also a male, so it'll be nice that if you're in your 30s and your 40s and you're a male, and also a female from a different community as well, come on board, because we'd like to ask you the same questions as well. Do you want to get married? Do you still get questioned? And is it your choice? And with the divorce rates and everything going up, does that make a difference as well? And I think before we actually wrap it up, Deb, is there anything that you'd like to say to people who are listening or even watching? Being the age that you are, is marriage important, or is it just your own individual?
Just be, as long as you're happy. That's all that matters. If you meet someone and it's amazing, go for it. If not, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters.
And I think for me, it's, don't change yourself for anyone. You are who you are in the end. And just because you're in your 30s and your 40s and you're not married, there's nothing wrong with them. Sometimes life experiences in relationships teaches you a lot. But it's not as if we're saying that, I know for me, I know one day I definitely do want to get married, but it's finding that right partner who is compatible but also understands you as well. And it works both ways. So it's not just about you as an individual, as in being a female, but it's also from a male side as well. It's about the understanding, it's about the trust. Don't put their careers as an excuse that, the career that you're in, it's all about, you're in a male dominating field, what you're doing and everything. Forget all that. You're not marrying their job, you're not marrying their career, you're marrying the individual, or you're with that partner for them, not for anything else. It's about them. You fall in love because you've met them how they are. So being in your 30s, being in your 40s, it doesn't really matter. If you're happy the way you are and you don't want to get married, that's absolutely fine. But guys, seriously, we want to hear from you as well. And I think it's very important. So rather than just hearing from us as females, I'm sure you have your own views and your own opinions about yourselves as well. Thank you so much, Deb. I know we've got so much to talk about. We can't actually carry on.
We could have gone on all night.
I know, but I think what we'll do is we'll just leave it at that. And also at the same time is want to tell you about our next episode, which we will be talking about. We've actually touched on that subject at the moment, and that is if you are separated and you're divorced, or you just had that mutual agreement that you don't want to be together, but you are also a single parent. We want to also hear from you. So that's our next one. Come on board. It's not just about you. Was it a mutual decision? And it's not about being negative. You could have separated because you wanted to separate. You wanted to divorce because you may have been in a relationship before and then decided that when you got married it just didn't work out. There are so many reasons, and there again, are you stereotyped, or are you do people point the finger at you and say, oh, there must be something there, it's either him or it's either her as well, which does really happen. But we want to hear from you, so get in contact, get in touch with myself on 07947 182 703. That's 947 182 703. So if you're separated or you've been divorced and you are a single parent, we know that you probably struggled or you have struggled, but at the same time is you've always thought about your kids as well, about their futures. We don't want to leave you on a negative. It's about being positive. You are the strong individual, so definitely get in touch with us. Thank you.